Okay, check, check. All right, ready to get started. Want to make sure things are coming through. Looks good. Okay, we're going through. We might be good. All right. Any problems hearing me? Anything you need? Let me know. Don't know if anybody will come on. I'm mainly doing this to test to make sure things are going to work right, but also I figured I'd discuss some things I was thinking about putting on video and decided it'd be better to just openly talk about it. So I don't know when I'm going to start doing this regularly or if it is going to be on Fridays, but I hope to. Right now, best chance is probably Tuesday, Friday, although I may not start doing it quite that often until later, but want to test it tonight. So to get started, I was going to get into something somebody had brought up that I almost put in my last video, but I decided to wait. It's a topic that could go so many different directions, and I realized that after thinking about it a bit. But when I started getting ready to do this, I realized there was something else I needed to look at. And as soon as I did, I realized let's do this first. So, first, I want to go into the poster that was given on N7 Day. After that, we'll take a look. Here we go. So, if you remember, a lot of people looked at this. And they were looking at all the aliens in here and trying to identify them and everything. Thinking about it, I realized I needed to do something else. Since I want to focus on story, I want to focus on plot, I realized I needed to step back and look at the whole picture. One thing I've heard a lot of people say that they brought up that I completely disagree with is multiple people saying this is Omega or it looks like it is Omega. I disagree. This, to me, is not Omega. And I'll give you several reasons. First of all, I'd say the only real similarity I see here is it's a club. That's it. But if you think back on what Afterlife was like on Omega, it was not like this. First of all, this has two colors to it, which may just be because of the poster, but we kind of have to go off that because we've got nothing else. And the two colors I see here are red and blue. In Afterlife, it was just red. Also, in Afterlife, you'd see the theme of just fire, flames, because it's supposed to be hell. That's the idea. This, you see none of that. Nothing like that. None of the thematics of Afterlife. So I do not think it fits. Third, style. The general style, the look of what the characters and people are wearing looks far more, for lack of a better word, fashionable than what you see in Omega, in Afterlife, where it's more gritty. I don't see that here at all. So no, I do not think this is Afterlife. I see this as more likely being somewhere on the Citadel. Now, I do not see enough of a similarity to say this may be Purgatory, because I don't see much of anything to really make that connection here. Now, there wasn't a whole lot to Purgatory as we saw it, but it was a little closer to this than Afterlife was. What I think this looks more like is what we saw in the Citadel DLC. Not exactly, but a little more similar to that. But there's something that makes this rather unique. Here, you've got these jellyfish. Here, you've got more jellyfish. Up here, you've got even more. So there's a bit of a theme there that we haven't seen before. So this has got to be something different. But that, the style, what people are wearing, all of that, first thing that goes to my mind is this seems like some kind of an elite club. Something for the high ranking in society. Now, what I really want to throw at you, because this reminds me of the Citadel DLC, the other thing that came to mind that really makes me hopeful, this is where we go down a very, very hypothetical route. In the Citadel DLC, the club, while you were doing the story side of it, was all about getting in, finding your way through to get to the source of the information. Because this was sort of a bit of espionage, almost. You were being a spy, which is very much the idea you get from this poster. And then after that DLC, what came out next was Dragon Age Inquisition, where there you had that huge part of the game that was all about going into this ball, finding out what was going on underneath the surface, a whole nother thing of espionage, spying. And it's something that obviously has done really well. People have loved that stuff. I'm wondering if this is a location where more of that is going to happen. Which could be really interesting if I'm right. And this is some kind of an elite club. Because that would mean a couple things. One, you're going to have nothing but secrets in this place. This is going to be a place where everybody in here is going to know stuff or have connections to things. Two, if you're in here trying to get information, if you're here trying to spy on it, you got to be careful of everyone. Unlike what we went through with Dragon Age, although it was there a bit. Not as much as this might be, but it was there. And what we didn't really have when we went through the whole thing in the Citadel DLC, everybody in here could be very suspicious of us. Everybody in here could really get in our way, cause trouble. So this could have a lot more involved in it than the other ones we've done in the past. If it goes this direction, is it only going to be in this place? I don't know. But one thing I do know is if that's what this is going to be, that would fit in very well to the possible storyline I was talking about. I still doubt that's what it is, but it would make it fit better. The other thing I want to point out in this that really makes me feel a little more comfortable throwing out this hypothetical is there's nothing here as far as entertainment. Unlike Afterlife, there's no dancers. Unlike the Citadel DLC, I don't see any kind of slot games or gambling anywhere. At least not that you can really see in this image. All you've got are places to sit down and converse and these bars. That's it. Which is a little more reason for me why this would fit better into that idea of more of an elite club. Also, I don't see anybody even doing dancing like you would in a ball, like you had in the that whole scene in Dragon Age Inquisition. Even that kind of floor isn't here. But the way this is laid out, it does seem like a kind of place where you could, if there is somebody who's like in charge of this, who's the lead of this, you could definitely see the way this is laid out. It would fit for somebody like that to come in to this floor that we see here in the center, right in here somewhere, to speak to everybody else because every other part of this club is kind of surrounding that. So I'm wondering if that's what's going on here. So what do you guys think? I'm really curious. One thing people pointed out that you can not really make out much of is the bartenders here. You can barely see them. This one to me looks a little bit like it's Solarian. This one looks more humanoid, but I'd say almost, I don't know. I can't help thinking Batarian is the closest I can think of. But that's the usual. That's what you normally would see. But there's only a couple of them. There aren't many. Given this crowd, I might have expected a little bit more. So that's another thing I find interesting. But yeah, I just generally, I want to know, what is the story behind this going to be? We'll see what happens. But yeah, that was the first thing I wanted to go over. Just show you guys a bit of this, see what you think. Because it definitely would take the right route. And that kind of story, that kind of plot definitely fits with the style of this character we're looking at. Of course, I'm not saying they're going to go into this dressed like this, but the way they look here definitely would fit this. So we'll see. Now, why did it not do that right? Sorry. Thought I'd already set that up right. I'll have to be a little more careful with that in the future. Let me see if I can bring up what I wanted to. There we go. Okay. Now to get into what I really wanted to talk about. So what is going to happen? One thing we've been seeing a lot of is they've been giving hints at both the original trilogy and Andromeda. It's something we've seen in all of it. What somebody mentioned on recent comment, I was talking in my video about how I thought it'd be interesting if we start off as Liara, looking for whoever this mysterious figure is, and then we start playing as them once they kind of team up. They said, one thing my friend told me is, what if that's more throughout the game you play as different characters? That struck a new idea for me. I don't know that it's this, but oh man, it's not doing what I. Okay, if it's going to be that way, let's just go ahead and go back to this. So if it's going to be like that, one thought I had that definitely takes this down a weird road. But what if that's why we're seeing a bit of everything? What if it's taking place in two places at once? What if they haven't really been able to necessarily transport that quickly between Andromeda and the Milky Way? But they have been able to communicate. They have found a way to do that better. And there's something going on, some kind of conspiracy between the two. Now, there's multiple ways this could work. I'm going to start with the craziest. The one that I think would be the hardest for BioWare to really make work right. And that would be, what if you played as two characters? You kind of went back and forth. One in the Milky Way, one in Andromeda. And it's by the information you get on either side, you put the puzzle together. Now, getting into the storytelling side of this, as I've said, what I do. The hard part of this would be finding a way to make it come to a close. What makes it particularly tricky in this situation is now you're talking about a video game. You're talking about one where the player is controlling a character. And in that, they'd want, in a sense, to finish off with both characters, but they'd kind of have to finish off with one. So how would you really weave that together right? That's what would make that tough. Or there's a couple other ways this could work. One that would be more applicable in a sense, one that would work easier, one that I could see them doing. It would be tricky, but I could see them pulling it off. And that would be where it starts off like that, where you're going back and forth between the two. But then they finally find a way to connect the galaxies. And in that, now you have to choose which of the two. You pick one that you are going to take control of, and they're going to be the ones to lead the rest of whatever this investigation is doing. The other one will take more of a side part of it. Sort of like what happened in Andromeda, where you pick between brother or sister. Only here, you're playing as both for some of the game at the start. Then you choose, okay, which one do you want to continue with? Which one are you enjoying playing as more? It would almost be like doing a sort of idea of Dragon Age Origins. Only in this case, you're not playing as one that you choose out of these multiple starts. You're playing each multiple start, but only two in this case, but each multiple start. Then after playing through the start, you choose which to put into the main story. I could see it working. I don't know how many people would really like that. I think it could be great. Because then you kind of get to know the different characters you're playing as to make it easier to choose which you want to go with. Man, I'm sorry my throat's getting so bad on me today. See what we can do with this. But the way they could go with this, if they really, really wanted to complicate this, which I'd say no. Because I know it would get them distracted, it would get them off track, it would kind of wear out their resources in a sense. That would be you play as both through the whole game, and the whole time you're separated. Tough. Or, other possibility, what if you took that even further and went where, I know this won't work, but imagine they went to the extreme and they decided one is Ryder, the other is Shepard. No way. Never going to happen. That just doesn't fit into any plot line unless you go down one of the roads I can't stand. Multiverse or time travel. Reason I can't stand them are twofold. But I want to focus on one. And that is the story. Story-wise, as a writer, I see those as nothing but an easy way out of using illogical concepts. Because both of them are a paradox. Those concepts in and of themselves are a paradox of themselves. And so that's why you bring them in. They kind of solve anything because you brought in a paradox to excuse a paradox. That's why I don't like it. That's just, to me, bad storytelling. So I really hope they don't go down that road. I don't think they will, but anything's possible. The other possibility, the other way they could use this, is if it started off sort of two origin stories. Like I said before, Liara, maybe the other one, Ryder. Where you're doing that back and forth until they solve the problem, come together, and that's when the main character comes in and you take them as your character. I wouldn't necessarily suggest it. I could see it potentially working, but they'd really have to limit themselves on that. I think the most interesting, the one I would enjoy most, I think would potentially work best if it could get done right, would be the one where you start off separate, come together, and then choose one of the two. The part of that that could be so fun is that way you play the story again and you pick the other person this time. It'll be the same story, but a lot of different choices within your dialogue. So I think that could be a lot of fun. But personally, I still would prefer to go along the lines of what I proposed in my earlier video. I still think that could fit better. But if you did do multiple characters, I think you would have to do that where you had two separate plot lines they're going down. If you're really going to put them on the same plot line, you'd have to have something separating them. Sort of like that idea of different galaxies. So if you're going to do that, I could see that working. But I could see that would really make this difficult to develop, difficult to write, difficult to plan out how it's going to come together. But if you stop and you consider, what if this club is a sort of middle ground? What if they have built some kind of new citadel? And it's sort of a, how do I put it? A sort of crossroads between Milky Way and Andromeda. What if the introduction of this, what if the start of the game would happen there? And that's what this is a club in that base, that station. Something has gone wrong with your ship. Something is keeping you from continuing. And you're stuck here. And this conspiracy starts to show itself as you're waiting to move on. And you get caught up in this plot line you didn't intend to. That would be another way of doing it. Where if you were going to take those two plot lines, you could start off here, have two people meet, who then go off in either direction and continue on with investigation with the plot in either galaxy. That is one way you could really get a good start, where it would explain better how these two people came in contact, but are still in separate galaxies. Again, I don't think that's what they'll do. I think there's reasons that would cause trouble and wouldn't work. But it's an interesting thought. And it could still be something, the general idea of this kind of station could be used in creating other kinds of stories. I would like to go through more. I'll probably do another video, but seriously, my throat, my voice is not doing well right now. Not sure why it's so bad today. It's always something I have to be a little careful not to go too long with, but today it's really bad, so I'll try to talk more about this another time. I might do a video trying to kind of summarize it a little bit better, break it down, maybe do a couple different videos on the two different topics I talked about. We'll see. For right now, I just want to test the stream, just want to make sure this would work. I'll have to check, see if the audio was good. So, any ideas, any thoughts, let me know. Comment on it. I would like to be able to take that and maybe that can give me more ideas of where to go with the videos if I do record more about this. If I get a better idea for when to do the stream, I'll definitely put it up, let you know. I may test Tuesday night. Probably not this week. Maybe this week, but we'll see. If not, the week after. See if that would work better for me. If so, maybe we'll do that. But right now, just trying to get my footing, find out where I want to put things, how I want to do this. Love advice, thoughts, any ideas. Again, I don't expect to make this any kind of huge channel, full-time kind of thing. This is something I'm doing for fun. Not that I'd try to avoid that. I just wouldn't expect that. I don't plan on that in any way. But we'll see what happens. Hope everybody has a good weekend.